Hey, good morning. How are you, Patrick? Can you hear me okay or no?
I can. I needed to mute my computer. In fact, I probably need to mute my microphone also. Let me get some crazy feedback. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now, Susie?
Pretty good. How are you?
I think we're muted in the building,
A little
but I
sun
think we're good.
sun flu.
I can hear you.
Who do you go to talk to? Yeah, excellent.
Okay, I was just going to.
Mic check. Works in house. Susie, can you hear me? Thank you.
Testing.
Good morning. We're still awaiting the arrival of a couple of board members to have a quorum, and we'll get started here shortly. We expect them to arrive anytime.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm calling this meeting of the Salton Sea Authority to order. At this time, if we could please have the Pledge of Allegiance, if Miss Martha Singh would be so kind as to join us. Thank you. Hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, could we have roll call?
President Dockstader,
Present.
Treasurer Kelly, Director Singh,
Present.
Director Aguilar,
Here.
Director Cardenas.
Good morning, President.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
I think somebody's knocking.
Can I open that door?
Sure, it's probably Costello.
Oh,
Our secret door.
secret passage.
The secret board member.
Is that the VIP?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in your seat.
Good morning.
Sorry, dude.
Hey, did we start?
Huh?
Did we start?
Yes, we started.
Okay.
Changes to the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
I have none, Madam President.
Okay. Do we have any public comments at this time? And I would like to say speakers should state their name for the record and address all comments to the chair, limiting remarks to 3 minutes. Well, alrighty then. This is gonna be a fast meeting. Oh,
Mr. Eric Reyes has requested the opportunity to speak.
okay, Mr. Reyes, you're on. Hopefully. I can't see you or hear you, but
Eric Reyes. You should be able to speak now, Mr. Reyes.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I'm calling for a number of reasons. One, I was informed that the IID did have a settlement with the Sierra Club, and that was a reason they did not present at the last Salton Sea Authority regarding the DIP program and the impacts of the Salton Sea. So I'm hoping now that that has been settled, that will be on the next agenda. No better place than the Salton Sea Authority for us to know that information and for all the agencies and the public to know as well. So I'm hoping that will be put on the agenda. It was moved from the last time you were there in La Quinta, the Coachella Valley, then it moved to the Imperial Valley, and then that's when they were in litigation, so now I'm hoping it's back on. And then the second one is regarding those impacts, I think it behooves the Salton Sea Authority. I know you have discussed the monitors and all the monitoring that's going on, yet we still haven't seen a comprehensive data source or resource that's available to the public on that. I know you had Comité Cívico there, Christian, and so on. So I would think that that's what the Salton Sea Authority would want to be working on, so we can create that baseline. And we know there's impacts coming that have been coming and will continue to come, and we've seen that it's not just PM 2.5, PM 10 that everyone concentrates on, but other recent studies have shown there are many more elements that we have to be worried about. And I think we should focus on letting the public know, you as Salton Sea Authority know, so then we can all work together at mitigating those impacts. Thank you very much.
thank you, Mr. Reyes. I appreciate your comments. Do we have anybody else?
No one else, Madam President.
Okay, we're gonna move on to board comments. Do we have any board comments at this time? You can share your thoughts, concerns regarding the,
I have a comment when it's appropriate. Or is it appropriate?
it is appropriate.
All right. Well, thank you. First of all, I do want to wish everybody a happy new year and look forward to continuing our efforts along the Salton Sea, especially when it comes to public health and also the restoration of habitat. Do welcome Mr. Reyes' comments, and hopefully we can consider and entertain an agenda topic to discuss our efforts in terms of protecting public health and habitat along the Salton Sea, but I'll ultimately defer to our chairwoman when that would be appropriate. But we did have some updates regarding our legal efforts, so I think Salton Sea Authority might be the perfect opportunity to share that. Also, I want to disclose that my older sister now serves on this board, Miss Cardona Singh, so I did want to disclose that not only to our general manager but to council. And again, she is an older sibling, but do welcome her to the Salton Sea Authority.
Go ahead and make comments.
Yes, go right ahead.
Yeah, same thing. Happy New Year. Looking forward to all the work that we have ahead of us. And welcome. I did want to say welcome, and looking forward to working with you, and congratulations on your election. And heard a lot of good things about you, so hopefully we can get to know each other a bit more and work together on a lot of good things. So welcome. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you very much, Martha Singh. We are very delighted to have you from the Board of Supervisors from Imperial Valley. So welcome, welcome. Before we introduce Joe Shea, does anybody else have you have anything to say, John?
No, just to echo the board's comments. Welcome. Look forward to working with you. The Water District is going to be making our committee appointments at our second meeting this month, and look forward to hopefully continuing participating.
Excellent. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and
I think you had another comment over there.
I do. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Thank you and Happy New Year's to everyone. Really excited about working with Salton Sea Authority. Just completed my 4 years with the El Centro City Council, was sworn in to the Imperial County Board of Supervisors and started on January the 3rd. I want to take this opportunity to thank the Salton Sea Authority for always being an advocate and ensuring that we're good stewards in regards to our public health, and looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you for the warm welcome.
And at this time, I would like to introduce Joe Shea, who is the Salton Sea Czar. What is exactly your title again?
Assistant Secretary for Salt. Oh, go ahead. I do this.
There you
Oh, there we go. Thank you so much. And I did not know that I would be sitting on the dais. So excited to be up here with all of you. I'm used to going to meetings and sitting in the back and taking notes. So pardon my initial disposition. But I'm excited to be working with all of you. I'm Joe Shea. I'm the new Assistant Secretary for Salton Sea Policy at the California Natural Resources Agency. Before assuming this role, I spent the last 7 years working for Governor Newsom, most recently as a Deputy Cabinet Secretary. I've long been interested in Salton Sea issues and really passionate about the work that brings all of us together. So I'm excited to work with all of you. This work is extremely personal to me, and I'm really excited about what I think we can do together and advance some of our shared priorities and working together. So thank you.
We appreciate that. If there's no other board member comments before we move on, I would like to say for the record, I do appreciate Mr. Reyes's comments, and I appreciate that it is a little bit of a drive to come over here, a nice hour and a half. So at our next board meeting, where we will be in El Centro, I think that would be great to plan to have a little SKIA presentation. So thank you very much.
We will work with IID staff to make sure that that's.
Thank you. All right, moving on. If there's no other comments, can I have a motion to approve the calendar?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Thank you. Motion has been approved and seconded by Cardenas and Aguilar. So at this time, let's see. Move the calendar, consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
No discussion. Perfect. Everybody in favor? Do we need to say that? I'm getting my IID board confused with my Salton Sea.
So am I, so I don't think we need to do the agenda, but
Thank you. All
good
right.
practice.
Okay, that's right. We're
Madam,
good.
Madam President, because we do have two board members. Notice for public remote participation. If you get your finger even close to this thing, it goes
Yeah,
off.
it turns off.
Because we have two board members notice for remote participation, it would be appropriate to have a roll call vote for all of these action items.
Thank you so much. I do appreciate it. Can we have a roll call vote then, please? Lisa?
President Dockstader,
Aye.
Vice President Estrada,
Aye.
Director Singh,
I will abstain because I was not here at that meeting to approve.
Director Aguilar,
Aye.
Director Cardenas.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Excellent. All right. Consent calendar passed. Can we move on now to Imperial Stream, Salton Sea and Tributaries Feasibility Study Update?
Madam President, members of the board, it's my pleasure to introduce Susie Ming from the United States Army Corps of Engineers. Susie had hoped to be here in person today to provide the board and the community an update on the work we've been pursuing over the last couple years regarding to the Imperial Stream's feasibility study. Unfortunately, Susie lives in the Topanga Canyon area and is on standby for emergency evacuation, so she's still gracious enough to join us remotely today for her presentation. So, Susie, I'm just going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, good morning. Patrick, should I share my screen, my presentation, or will you be sharing it there?
No, you can share it.
Give me 1 second, sorry. Let me know when.
We got
I
it.
think I can see. Okay. Well, good morning. I want to thank you so much. I'm Susie Ming from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I'm the project manager for the Imperial Stream Salton Sea feasibility study. Thank you so much for the invitation to provide this update. I do apologize I am not there in person. I really wish I was. It's been a crazy week. I will say that we're safe and sound, and luckily hopefully the winds have passed. It's been over a year since I presented an update to you all back in November of 2023. So over a year. And so I appreciate the chance. There's been a lot that has occurred. And I know Patrick has provided some brief updates, but I'm hoping to give you a little bit more of the challenges we faced and kind of our present status, things that we've been doing. Our team continues to coordinate this very complex study formulation with our non-federal sponsors, the California Department of Water Resources and the Salton Sea Authority, as well as the Audubon Society, our cooperating and participating agencies, tribal partners, our U.S. Army Corps Ecosystem Planning Center of Expertise that helps us with our ecological model, our Engineering Research and Development Center, which is in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and our Climate Community Practice, which helps us with climate change as we formulate this study. I just want to note before I go on to the next slide that the study email address, if you have any questions, kind of goes to a bunch of us on the study, is at the bottom of the slide, as well as the web page. We are working on this web page to combine and consolidate the both our Army Corps regulatory and planning studies in kind of one place, so that we don't have two places, we'll have just one. So I'll say we're working on that. It's not there yet, but hopefully soon. Sorry, give me 1 minute while I try to go to the next slide. Okay, all right. I think you've all seen this before, but just a little bit of the background and the study objectives. The study was authorized in 2016, a resolution to the Senate committee with this study objectives to improve the quality, quantity, and complexity of aquatic, wetland, and riparian habitat, reduce the surface area of exposed emissive seabed, and improve recreational opportunities. As you see on the map, it shows our entire study area. Back when we started the study and really talked it over, it was determined that it would be designated a mega study in our Army Corps guidance. And that was based on the distinctive study scope, its complex design criteria, potential project costs, national significance, and coordination with multiple sponsors and stakeholders. We understand that's not just a complex study, but a complex coordination, and that requires a higher level at the core that we determined to be a mega study. And what that really means on our end, as far as coordination, is that we'll have a higher level of accountability and of vertical alignment. We'll have a multi-tiered communication and issue resolution structure that the non-federal partners are also a part of. So it's really to make sure as we move along, it's such a complex study, that we really are resolving our issues at the lowest level, and if they, raising them up as to the higher levels if needed. To just talk about, did I go past one? Sorry, am I doing? Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Since the last time we met, since last time I briefed, the study strategy was revised based on a lot of input and back and forth with the headquarters team and our Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works. At the time was Michael Connor. Mr. Connor, he recommended us to find a way to implement sooner than the Salton, than our estimated project had been put forward. At the time, he was saying, well, is there a way for us to do something where we can implement sooner while we still look at the whole basin strategy study? So, which was really, really wonderful, because it's not something that we normally do. So based on that recommendation from the ASA Civil Works, the study team identified 2 different locations for early implementation increment. And I know that doesn't really roll off the tongue, but that's what we're calling it. And it's going to run in parallel with the larger basin-wide study. The two sites that we're looking at came from the 10-year plan. They're at Whitewater West and Alamo River. Whitewater West has potential restoration opportunity for approximately 1,300 acres of emissive seabed suppression by establishing native vegetation habitat on the northern end of the Salton Sea, which would be adjacent to the Salton Sea Management Program's North Lake project. The other is the Alamo River, which has the potential to create approximately 3,200 acres of aquatic habitat, like the Salton Sea Management Program's Species Conservation Habitat Project at the Alamo River Delta, the southeastern side of the sea. Both of those will be looked at as part of this early increment. We understand as we move forward, if either of those can move faster than the other, they can. The early implement increment really is intended to accelerate the construction of targeted restoration projects while we continue to evaluate the whole sea solution. Let me just move this one over a second. Okay. Since we last talked, I know it's been a while, I'm going to just kind of highlight a few things. We did host a future hydrology workshop in Mecca, California, end of April, beginning of May. Really wonderful for us to pull those folks together in the area and really talk about those assumptions and those the data that folks have that we can use for our hydrology modeling. We continue to coordinate with the Great Salt Lake planning team as they are working on similar issues, on saline lake issues, and benefiting from some of the lessons learned from them. We participated in the State Water Resources Control Board Salton Sea Workshop. We continue to coordinate with the Audubon Society on the Bombay Beach Wetlands Project, as well as on their ecological model that they've developed for the Salton Sea, which we will take and adapt to our study. So that's in process. This is maybe a little bit more of Army Corps speak, but we revised our vertical team alignment memo. And really what that was in response to the Assistant Secretary of the Army's request to implement sooner. And that memo really is what we have as our vertical alignment. So it goes all the way up to the ASA where they say, okay, we understand exactly what you want to do, how much it's going to cost, the expectations, and the schedule. And so that was signed. That did take us a long time. It went through multiple iterations. And in addition, a typical core feasibility study is usually 3 years and 3 million. No one believed that at the beginning that the Salton Sea would fall into more of a typical core study because of its complex nature. So we had to put in what we call a request for additional resources that needs to be approved by the ASA. I will say that took a longer time than we had hoped, but we did get that, and that goes all the way up to Mr. Connor at the time, and he signed that with his input. So the current study estimate for the basin-wide and the early implementation increment total is 22.539 million, which is cost shared with our non-federal sponsors. It could be the cost share is either cash or work in kind efforts. This is a significant accomplishment because it really acknowledges the level of effort that the study will take at the Salton Sea, as well as the need to implement earlier. Some ongoing tasks that we have that are not noted here on the slide, but are ongoing is we continue coordinating a contract negotiation with the University of California, Riverside for their SWOT hydrologic modeling that we are going to use to help us with our impacts to the water quality, water quantity into our hydraulic models. We continue to coordinate with U.S. Fish and Wildlife on our Coordination Act report scope of work. Our survey team has been out to the sea to just validate monuments, as well as looking at all the existing bathymetry and LIDAR data. So our team is working. It is, I say we had a little bit of hiatus there over the holiday, and we had some, I guess, challenges with getting the check from the state, but we have kind of worked those through. What I'm showing you right here is kind of a little bit graphic, right, of how the studies would run in parallel. Right now, we're doing our formulation, and we're looking at conditions, we're getting our models together, and at some point during those future conditions, we will off ramp those early implementation increments. And those will kind of move off to the side so that we can get a chief's report, we estimate in May of 2028. This is a study based on optimal funding. I will say that we currently have in bipartisan infrastructure law funding pending another 3.873 million. So that would take us through what we estimate through FY26, I believe. And so we will start budgeting for the out years as well. I'm just going to show the next slide since it's in Spanish. Hopefully it goes so you can see that. So the anticipated part was that we could have 2 chiefs reports or 3. Should Whitewater and Alamo need to split up, we could do that as well. So there is some flexibility in there. We will have probably integrated study teams, but this kind of shows our process. And that's what I've got for update, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And I will stop showing just to.
Thank you very much. We do appreciate that, and we're glad you're safe. Does anybody have any questions?
If I may, Madam Chair, first of
Yes.
all, I appreciate this presentation, and probably the 2 things I appreciate the most. Number one, the bilingual approach and sharing this presentation, not only in English but Spanish. So thank you for that. I think that's huge. The second thing is I do appreciate what I'll call the Gantt chart. The Gantt chart that was provided, or the schedule that provided, really gives me, context and color in terms of where that finish line is. And that's, around the Chiefs report. So, I've been following this opportunity for a while, but to see it in a presentation with a schedule really allows me to share that with my constituents in terms of, the excitement around this feasibility study. So thank you for that. My only question would be around securing the appropriations to get us to FY 30 or 2030. So I just wanted to check in terms of, it appears that we're funded through FY 2026, but what would be the plan post 2026 in terms of securing those earmarks and appropriations? You did mention bipartisan, I think you mentioned there is bipartisan law or bipartisan funding, I'm not sure. But can you just walk us through as what we can do as an agency membership to secure the funding post 2026 to get to the Chiefs report?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I do want to throw out a thank you to our partners, DWR and the CNRA, because they assist us with work in kind for helping us put that bilingual, the Spanish on the slides for us. So we really appreciate that. It's been really helpful. As far as funding, yes, we have bipartisan infrastructure law funding that was reprogrammed to this study, of 3.873 million. We estimate, as I said, that'll get us through FY26. We do budget out 27, 28, 29. We're currently working on 27 and 28. So we will continue to budget for that on our side. I will say that we work closely and hold monthly meetings with Congressman Ruiz's staff. So we make sure that those folks are know of the needs of budgeting. And then we share that with our sponsors so that they can work, to make sure that we get that funding. But it is a priority. And so I think the state has made it a priority to make sure that they have the funding on their side for the cost share. And we'll just continue to work and make sure that we have that optimal funding budgeting. And I've shared that with Patrick, and I know he's worked with his folks to make sure that we're consistent with the numbers that we're asking for in our out year FYs.
And if I may just
If I
ask
could-
a housekeeping question, in regards to our relationship with Congressman Calvert as a senior appropriator, especially on the Republican side. And I know that Miss Lisa Moore is on the phone, and I appreciate her DC advocacy as well. But are we keeping Congressman Calvert also informed? He's an advocate of the sea, and I'm sure if we can share this presentation with him and then him understand that there may be some funding asked in the future, that at least we can start setting that table.
Yeah, we keep our entire congressional delegation informed of what's taking place in this respect and all matters related to the Salton Sea. I think it's important to note that well, first of all, we're very thankful for Assistant Secretary Connor and the might that he's brought in securing the supplemental funding that got us to the level of security we have now. But there's going to be more work, not only in funding the complete study, but securing the funds necessary to implement the study once it's done. It's going to take a lot of money. And I'm going to let Lisa Moore jump in and talk about the process and what we've been doing and what we will be doing in that regard.
Yeah, so historically, right, there were two ways to approach funding the study, and we've used both, right? So you can take the avenue of congressional appropriations when we have community-directed spending or earmarks, but then also working with the administration to have the study in the budget or the work plan. And so it was through the work really with the Corps to have that $3.8 million in this work plan. And that was by leaps and bounds more than I think any other study got in the work plan, which is really a reflection of the priority that Connor was putting on it, and really the advocacy, I think, probably from people like Susie in the LA district and the work that they've put into it. And so moving forward, we need to kind of continue doing those two things. When we started working on this study, of course, we had Senator Feinstein in position as senior on energy and water appropriations writing that bill. We don't have that any longer. We do not have a Senate side appropriator. We have continually worked with Calvert, both in the minority and in the majority. And so as our only appropriator in California, I think it's just we need to continue to build those relationships. We have very good relationships with all of our delegation, but also I think I do some updating with the community to have additional voices with our delegation and the new administration about the importance of the study. And so I think looking forward in 2025, those are some things that we'll be prioritizing. But it's great to have this. I think Connor put us in a really good position to continue working and not have any kind of sort of slow down or stop. And that's, from HQ and then the work that the district has done, which has been great.
Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate it. Yes, go ahead, John.
I wanted to also just say,
It's still red.
Hit it again.
I'm glad it's not just me.
I know. No,
Wait.
Can you hear me now?
There
There we go. Ms. Ming, I'm glad that you and your family are safe as well. So I appreciate hearing that. Godspeed. I'm curious about one thing. Over the last several decades, there have been many, many studies done on the decline of the sea. And I'm interested in whether or not this particular focus on fish and wildlife remediation, is this new information that we're developing and hopefully an implementation plan? Does this build off of other information? I'm just curious about how this can be integrated into work that's already been done, or if it hasn't been done, if you could just comment on that, please.
Yeah, we are not starting from scratch, sir. We are working with the information that the Salton Sea Management Plan has done for their long-term plan. So basically, they set us up to kind of launch from there. We certainly are taking a look from it from a core perspective in our feasibility formulation, but we are not going back and starting from scratch. We took many of the alternatives that were developed in the long-range plan are pulling those forward into our array of alternatives. We're adding a few. We're sorting and going through and figuring out what data we have from other folks. So we're definitely building upon what was done before and taking it forward. And so, w- there are so many studies, right? There's so much work out there that it's almost a little bit overwhelming. So we have to take what we have. As I said, we are taking existing bathymetry, we're taking existing USGS LiDAR, we're going out and maybe just validating. We're taking the Audubon ecological model. So there's just so much that has been done that we are trying to use, obviously, so that we can get through the process as quick as we can, implement faster, and keep our costs down. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you. And
Know,
that's
I
good to
would
hear.
also point out that the state's 10-year plan is assumed to be an existing condition as part of the development of this long-range strategy.
Thank you,
Madam Chair, can I ask a follow-up question?
Please do.
Mr. Aguilar brings up a good point, and I think there's been a lot of interest and a lot of discussion around public health, and it appears that we have a constellation of North Stars here when it comes to the Salton Sea. One, obviously, being public health. The second being the preservation and the restoration of habitat. So looking at this feasibility study, how do we bring both of those key components together and provide equity to both? For me, the restoration and the preservation of habitat is absolutely critical. Things like the pupfish and some of the other wildlife. But then at the same time, we have public health. And sometimes we may try to put one on top of the other, or there's a cadence associated. But so my question or my inquiry would be around public health and habitat. How do we bring that into a constellation of North Stars?
Well, I answer from the Corps' perspective. We have an authority, right, that is related to ecosystem restoration opportunities, aquatic ecosystem restoration, as well as to improve public health. But it has to also be connected to that ecosystem restoration. So we are looking at that as we formulate our array of alternatives. Obviously there may be public health that comes out of this that is not that we can't support with our authorization, but may be supported by others. So I would say that we're looking at all of it, but we have to also formulate within what our authority is.
And so that may lead to a parking lot discussion, Mr. Patrick. And if it is the pleasure of the agencies that if there is some public health opportunities that we need to supplement with this study, that we consider that in a parking lot type of situation. But as long as it doesn't say stale. But I know you've been making tremendous efforts in bringing the public health discussion to this to these membership agencies.
I think that when this plan is finished, it'll be well defined, and the issues with respect to public health are fairly immediate, right? So I think a lot of these things we'll understand before this plan is even finalized. So to the extent that the finalized plan that's developed by the Corps, based on the resources that are available, and it's achievable and feasible, excludes issues of public health concerns, they will have to otherwise be addressed in partnership with the state and other responsible parties like the air boards, like whoever the responsible parties are. But those are, it's complex, right? But we are so fortunate to have the Corps. These meetings, I apologize, but when we get together, and we get together on a regular basis with the Corps team is a group of highly qualified professionals. They bring literally an army to this conversation. And with all the hard work and all the resources that the state has thrown at this, having the Corps alongside this effort, people should begin to start taking some comfort that real things are happening at the sea and in the region.
Thank you, Patrick. Anybody else? Any other questions? Comments?
There's one comment.
Nope.
Michael Cohen.
Mr. Cohen, how are you today?
Doing well. Thanks very much. And thanks for the opportunity to pose a question to Ms. Ming. Curious or delighted to see that the Alamo Rivers in the, I forget the full unwieldy acronym, but one of the short-term projects. And I'm curious to what extent the Corps has begun conversations with Imperial Irrigation District and other landowners and with some of the geothermal companies there. Seems like the Alamo River is a huge opportunity for habitat restoration projects. but my understanding is that the development of lithium and geothermal in the region has been a concern there, and wondering how we can allow both to continue and move forward. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Michael, for the question. We are really just starting to kind of move forward on our coordination on those two early investment increment sites. We have reached out to IID and we're setting up a call with them. So we're just really starting to kind of move forward on those. We just pivoted, I would say, late in 2024. So I would say we're going to hit the ground running soon, but we have not really done much detailed coordination yet.
Well, I think our chairwoman can help you set that table when it's appropriate, but we look forward to the conversation. I think it's a great inquiry. Thank you.
Yes, I do. I was just thinking, I haven't heard that yet, so got to get started on that. Definitely. Thank you. Do we have any more online comments?
Yes, Jasmine Phillips.
Okay. Go ahead, Jasmine. We can't hear you.
Looks like she put her hand down.
Oh, okay.
While we have a little time, I did want to point out that we did have a bit of an administrative challenge recently in implementing this effort regarding payments between the state and the Corps. And I'm not saying that it's fault one way or the other, but it did impact the project slightly from a timing and resource standpoint. And those are just the kind of things dealing in this complex environment that we're just going to be getting better at. But it demonstrates the importance of available funds to meet the current obligations of the federal government, because Susie can't do anything without readily available funds to advance her work. So we need to work together with the state, with our federal partners, with our delegation to make sure that funds are continuously available, because if there's no money, there's going to be no study.
Okay.
Jasmine is back on the line.
Okay, Jasmine, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. Really appreciate this presentation today, and I would like to see this presentation available in community locations for the local residents around the Salton Sea. I would also like to suggest that when addressing the issue of public health and aquatic habitat, that maybe we change our dialogue, because restoration of aquatic habitat is dust control. Hopefully, if we narrate it in that perspective, community members can see that it is taking public health into consideration when we restore the habitat. So it's really a twofold benefit for the wildlife and the people.
Thank you very much for your comment, Jasmine, and I loved your screensaver. That was fabulous. And I liked your suggestion about making it available to the public. I don't know if you were aware, but when they showed that Gantt chart, I actually took a picture on my cell phone so that I personally had it as well.
The entire presentation is actually on our agenda. So.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Any other public comments?
Not at this time.
Okay. I appreciate the robust discussion, and I appreciate the presentation. Susie, it was well received, and good luck, and keep going, even if you're getting a little late on getting paid. Keep going, keep going. It's the gold standard of studies.
Yes, we are not moving as quickly as we wanted to, but the money will be fixed very shortly, and we'll be moving forward. And I want to thank you again for having me.
Thank you. We appreciate it. At this time, can we move on to the Audubon California tour?
So we talked a little bit about collaboration and community engagement. We were contacted recently by our friends at Audubon California about a tour that they're conducting to partner with them, and unfortunately, I'm not immediately available to help. But I do think it's the kind of things that we need to bring forward to the board, bring forward to the community, make sure that everybody knows the different things that are going on. And this will be followed by a presentation by CV Strategies on the broader work that we're doing in this space. So thanks for being here, Ms. Reyes.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ryan Reyes, and I work for Audubon California's Salton Sea and Desert program. Thank you for that background, Patrick. Just to give a little bit more background, I don't want to be presumptuous. So, Audubon, California is a conservation nonprofit that protects birds and their habitats. Locally, our work focuses on community education, science, and outreach, as well as our aforementioned Bombay Beach Wetlands project. We are hosting a Salton Sea bus tour on January 31st and will showcase various restoration projects and initiatives around the Salton Sea. Speakers will include representatives from Audubon, California, Alianza Coachella Valley, the California Natural Resources Agency, as well as the Salton Sea Action Committee. We were also hoping that Patrick would be able to join, but we completely understand. Participants will include newly elected officials, such as Assemblyman Gonzalez, and we are also inviting college students and educators to participate as well. The goal is to provide electeds with knowledge on the sea and its nuances, and our hope is that students will see that there are a lot of opportunities around the sea for social justice work, various projects going on, as well as volunteer opportunities. As a representative of Audubon, California, we would love to use this as an opportunity to have a bigger conversation about collaborative outreach and Salton Sea education opportunities and community outreach.
Thank you very much, Ryan. I appreciate it.
How do people get on the tour?
Yeah. Can anybody
Yes, so to join, yes, anybody is welcome to come. We have sent out our targeted invitations and there are still seats available. So if you would like to join, feel free to reach out to me. We also have a Google form because lunch will be provided. So if you do have any dietary restrictions or anything like that, I do ask that you fill out that form just in case. And I would be happy to share that with everybody here.
Yeah, I think if you share it with Patrick and Lisa, and then you can send that over to us, that would be helpful.
If you provide me the link, I can put it on our agenda on the website.
Absolutely.
And it would be publicly available.
Absolutely.
Just send that to me and I'll have it done before the meeting's over.
Yes, sir.
You could send us an email.
I'll do it.
So that we can sign up.
We're going to do it.
Okay. Thank you.
I appreciate it, Ryan. And I apologize. I did not introduce you when you first came up here because the spelling of your name was so unusual. And I wasn't sure if I was addressing a Mr. or a Mrs. Reyes. So anyway.
Completely understand.
Thank you very much. Have you been with Audubon very long?
Almost a year.
A year. Okay.
Yes.
Just because your face was fresh. So anyway.
Yes.
That is perfect. Anybody else have any questions? Any follow-up? Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Hopefully we'll have some board members participating.
That would be wonderful. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Moving on to engagement, outreach, and education update from Tara.
So we think that's
I
important.
lied.
We think that's important work that Audubon is doing. Others are doing work in the same space. And we've recognized for some time that there's a lot of different people doing a lot of different things. And so what we've long tried to do is to collaborate and align the messages, the invitees, the participants, so that we're all saying the same thing and the important information is getting out. So some time ago, we enlisted the services of CB Strategies to help assess our resources, assess our partner resources, and Ms. Malali is going to provide an update today. Thank you for being here.
So, Patrick, before we start, I guess the question I'm having based on your comments is, would this have been an opportunity for us to coordinate between the messaging and the information that we want out, and then these other tours that are happening with Audubon and other folks? Was there a chance for that collaboration, or did we just miss that, or how do we work on that in the future?
So when we had some dialogue about who they were targeting and what their strategy was, we didn't align it really at a higher level, but I do think they have some real intentionality into who they're inviting. I think if we did it more programmatically and plan these things out seasonally and in advance, I think we can work together and help promote each other's activities, make sure that the right people are there to share the story. The answer to your question is we really didn't have enough time because we found out about it. It was already booked. It was already set. I was invited to speak, but unfortunately, I'm scheduled to be out of town that day. And I'm glad that there's interest from the board in participating. That will be helpful.
Yeah, and that's understood. I think that's understood. I think what I heard is that the targeted folks are a lot of the elected officials. I think is what I heard, and or did I was that the I heard elected
What,
officials.
did you think you were an elected official?
No. Maybe a college student.
I
but,
don't want to speak for.
I heard elected officials and some college folks, but the reason I bring it up is if the target was elected officials, and I heard Mr. Gonzalez being part of that, and the whole conversation that we just had about funding of this study that we talked about, and I think we have a big need to find funding sources for that. It would have been, I think, a big opportunity for us to go over this Gantt chart and the schedule where it's a perfect opportunity to start educating folks and telling folks that we have this plan ahead of us and that it requires a lot of funding. And so I think that that audience would have been great for that. So anyways, just a thought.
And we talked about that, and it doesn't mean both. It doesn't mean both can't happen. That still needs to happen, especially with the new delegation in Sacramento and in DC. Those are going to be planned. We just have to make. We just have to help Audubon making this particular event as successful as possible. But on a going forward basis, the more we can coordinate, the more we can collaborate, the more we can develop messaging strategies. But I'm going to stop because that's exactly what CV Strategies has been working on.
Thank you.
And she's running out of the room.
So with that being said, I'm going to join Director Estrada's party here. There is a Salton Sea engagement at with Eric Reyes as well, Los Amigos de la Comunidad. So I think that's down the road, but we definitely need to make sure that we are either participating or helping develop or sitting on a panel, and that goes for the electeds as well. But I know that if we can have some surveillance on those community calendars and be an active participant, that might help our situation and bring alignment.
And I have been contacted by Mr. Reyes as well, and my intention was, and I don't remember exactly when his event is, but we are meeting in Imperial in March, and was going to coordinate with him. And that by that time we'll be further along with this exercise also, and maybe even have a broader perspective and a more refined strategy in that regard.
All right, we're ready.
Okay, thank you so much for having me here today, President Dockstetter and the rest of the member board. I just want to take a moment to say that we're very honored to be working on this important project. And when we first started, I've been working in the water industry for nearly 20 years. And I was like, I understand the Salton Sea. I understand Imperial, I understand Riverside. Turns out you don't know anything until you're so deep in it. And there's so much more to learn. It never ends. And I came into that and I was very humbled. And I actually really want to celebrate that humility, because that's what's going to allow effective activation of the community moving forward. Because I feel like everyone has their own opinion of the Salton Sea. You could ask anyone in any one of the cities out here, in any one of the cities down near El Centro. Everybody knows the issues with the Salton Sea, but they don't. They don't really. And I just wanted to start with that as we kind of move forward. One of the complexities is the number of agencies that are trying to help the Salton Sea. You find that you have Alianza, you have the Audubon Society, you have the Army Corps of Engineers. You have so many people trying to help, and there's so many disparate communication strategies. And so one of the things and one of the goals we originally set was to create a centralized communication strategy for the Salton Sea Authority, since that is the acting agency over the Salton Sea. And so to determine any messaging alignment among members and stakeholders. Thank you. So moving forward, we have been and will continue to do so, meeting with stakeholder groups to ensure, and I tried to have a meeting with Eric a couple different times, but unfortunately he was very busy during the election season, as I'm sure you guys are all aware. We also identify available communication resources, foster community legislative and regulatory activation through outreach and relationship development. Progress. We have met with every member on this board, with their staff, with their team, making sure that we know the agency's agendas, what they're focused on, and where there are opportunities to share communication resources and strategies. Thank you, Jim. The initial findings were that every agency is focused on these kind of three larger themes, which are health, habitat, and opportunity. And obviously, health concerns are at the forefront of every member's priorities. One of the things that is less known is that your agencies, your counties, and your cities are actually doing things about those concerns. And really, I thought that was very interesting, that people aren't aware of the things that are being currently actively being done to measure and understand what's happening. Right now, it's a lot about the optics of addressing these concerns and the path forward. So really looking at what is being done now, which people don't know about, and what will be done in the future, which people also don't know about. They all just go, oh, Salton Sea, it's an issue. I don't want to deal with it. It's scary, or whatever. Like, they just all have their own opinions. And if we look forward on the horizon, we have this big feasibility study, right, which is very exciting and finally means some real answers on some very big questions that we've been kind of waiting for a long time, and also the Conservancy. So what does that mean for the agency? What does that look like? And really helping to form a path forward where we're in alignment and making sure that we know what that might look like. Before I get into these immediate next steps, one thing I really want to highlight is that it's not my sense that anybody really understands how complex this is. I think I've made that kind of abundantly clear at this point. But they also don't understand the focus of the agencies and the resources that you are currently using to support the Salton Sea. People don't even know that this meeting exists. And I'm talking about like people who you feel like should or should be here on a regular basis, right? You feel like those agencies who are speaking on behalf of the Salton Sea should be at the table. And this is the table to talk about those things. We don't know about what's happening a lot of the times because they're not here and we're not having the conversations. Patrick is only one person. He can only be in so many meetings at so many times. So we want to make sure that we're leveraging those community resources in a way that makes sense for everyone. We're also going to be building in responses with credible and responsible answers that communities can take comfort in. Because just knowing that it's an issue and it's complex doesn't make me feel comforted, doesn't make me feel like anything's happening. And so there are things that are happening, and we want to make sure people believe that and understand what really is going on. So to immediately affect change, we want to build the foundational communication elements. So these are those issues, concerns, and opportunities that require proper, consistent messaging and engagement, so that we are all talking about the funding needed to support the Gantt chart, right? We're all talking about what's next for the Salton Sea and what that might look like. And we know that there are many opportunities of what that might look like, but if we're all on the same page saying this is where we have a nexus, and so we'll be communicating about our nexus moving forward, that's where we can live in a place where things are consistent. Because if we talk about all of our outlying agendas, the messaging will never be consistent. From that, we will build an educational and engagement plan. Notice I didn't call it a communications plan or a marketing plan, because that's not what this is. This is about educating and informing our residents, our community members, our legislators, and making sure that they are engaged in this process and that they are active and activated. It will create a framework of assurance that moving forward, we have a plan. And we do actually have a plan to how to advance what the goals of this organization are, which are, again, health, habitat, and opportunity, and what the order of priorities that those are. It will be a living document that will combine what we know with what we continue to learn. Because we don't want to go, oh, that's the plan, check, right? In 6 months from now, if something changes, we want to make sure that our plan is adaptable and that we're continuing to provide updates to the board. The first step of that, because we're about to be in legislative session right in this moment, is those legislative support resources to ensure that Ken knows what's happening, that we've got all of those things moving forward. Finally, the upcoming deliverables within the next 6 months. Now, there's the annual educational engagement plan with deliverables with timelines, legislative resources, also member resources. You need your own resources in order to communicate what we're doing here. And that way you can share that with your members, with the agencies and counties moving forward, which includes message deck and photo and video assets. Every photo I see of the Salton Sea has no people in it. It's a beautiful landscape. And there are people who live there. And we want to capture that there are communities that are impacted directly. And we can set up those we can set up that photo shoot. We can get the video. We can interview people. We can interview our member agencies on what they're doing. We can create those assets for you to be able to distribute and also for us to be able to share with legislators. In addition, we have event planning, which are those community meetings and open houses and informational tours. Castillo, Director Estrada. We've got tours on the schedule. And then direct community communication, website update, quarterly e-newsletter, and of course, bilingual resources. Those are critical for these communities. Media engagement, we would like to create a press release series based on milestones of actual success because we do have them, just we tend not to really get the local media to engage and get teeth into that. And I think that our connections and what they know of CV strategies and also of the Salton Sea will really help drive that. I was at the Coachella Valley Journalism Foundation lunch this week, and Olivia Sandusky actually won the New Journalism of the Year award for her work on the Salton Sea. So clearly the media cares about it, they just don't know what's happening next. We also want to make sure that we engage the editorial board because that's one of the most impactful news places within both the Coachella Valley and the Imperial County. And then long-term communication strategies. So this, to me, is engaging hyperlocal, regional, and legislative audiences. Because I want to sort of mention that there are these hyperlocal communities like the Bombay Beaches, the Salton Cities, all of those, but then all of our larger, impacted communities within the region, Coachella Valley, Imperial Valley, all of those kind of bigger overarching places where we really care and we're worried what might happen. And then ongoing conservancy education, outreach, and engagement as the conservancy comes on board. In conclusion, we would not be here today without that feasibility study and $250 million worth of funding support, which we are so grateful for. Without the work of this organization, its members, and the other stakeholder groups that have come before. We are incredibly grateful for the work they have done, and we continue and will continue to advance it, acknowledge it, and get support for it. With local communities currently receiving the brunt of the cost of addressing this Colorado River issue, it is imperative that we engage with state and federal legislators on this Colorado River issue. First and foremost is that the feasibility study is that bedrock, and it will take a long time, right? But we must not look away from it, even for a moment, because if we let our local communities and our legislators look away, that momentum will die. We have to continue to both engage them today, engage them tomorrow, and engage them into the future. the risk of losing the rewards of this process are far too great for us to merely just go, well, I sent out a press release. It's fine. They'll know. They'll pay attention. They'll care. Because they won't. We have to actually get them to engage and activate, write letters to their legislators, come see the sea for themselves, invite people to actually take a tour, and not just the electeds, but real people, real residents, and real NGOs who are engaged all over this Southern California region. Our work has been and will continue to focus on what provides a broad benefit for your 5 agencies. And we will continue to do so. Thank you so much. Any questions?
I'm going to open up for questions. Do you have any questions?
I want to make sure that it's clear that what we're doing is not intended in any way to replace the important work that the state is doing in their communications effort and the community engagement committee that I know Miguel leads up that effort. We principally wanted to assess what our member agencies were capable of, the resources they had, and then go out beyond that and make sure that we understood what our community partners are doing. At the end of the day, like we talked about earlier, all of this has to be aligned, and we have to work collaboratively and collectively. And I think it's important that we do that.
Okay, Tara, one of the questions I have for you, when we meet again in 2 more months, you're going to come back, and what are you going to do by then? Are we going to have a tour set up? Give me some concrete, give me a something. Give me a teaser.
So that's the initial deliverables. That's the legislative materials. That's
Okay.
the initial plan and the foundational messages. So you'll have an actual message deck
Okay,
to
perfect.
review, look over. You'll also have that plan to discuss with real timelines, which I know I know board members, they're hungry for those timelines.
We love Gantt charts, Alex and I in particular.
I'm all about a good Gantt chart. We like to
Mhm.
overlap and make sure things are happening.
Mhm.
We'll also be working on the tour timing, but I don't think the
Okay.
tours will have happened by then.
That's okay, but you might have some timelines for us. Perfect.
Exactly. And then those legislative handouts need to basically come together, so you'll have those as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Any other questions?
I just have a comment. I think the idea of having a tour and then giving folks a sense of all the different projects that are being worked on both sides of the sea, whether it's the North Lake project or the Finger Lakes, sharing with folks the feasibility study, the mega study that we're working on, summarizing all the different efforts that are happening simultaneously with the state and the federal partners and the NGOs. I think that's great. I think it's a good way to start informing the general community that lives close to the sea and maybe further away. But I think that it makes more sense to me if we were to do it more than just one time.
Mm-hmm.
If it was something that was a recurring. My experience has been that, you only get better at it. And so you do it once and, you learn from whatever went wrong and then you do it better the next time. And then you just kind of pick up a flow. So I don't know how long your contract's for, if this is a 1 year, 2 year, commitment or plan or, I don't know, but related to the tasks and particularly with the educational component and the tours, I think it'd be good to spread those out. So if it's a year, maybe you have a few during that year. Or if it's 2 years, I think the word would get out. I think it'd be something that folks would be interested in. And I do think that there's a need to communicate to the public all the things that we're doing. I do agree that sometimes folks don't know. It's good to summarize those things. It's good to, there's a lot that is happening, and it's happening by this agency. It's happening by other agencies. It's just a lot of folks are doing different things, and so we should let the public know that it's an important issue that we're working on, that we have plans that we're going to be working on for the next several years. Anyways, I like the tour, but think about how we keep that going as something that's recurring.
It's something that it's a conversation that Juan with the Salton Sea Action Committee and Frank, when he was with Audubon, and I were talking about a year ago. But the challenge is we need to make them happen. And I think that was, Juan's frustration is we can talk about tours, we just need to make them happen. And the discussion we had with Audubon is, our thinking is we want to get the legislate like we did with Assembly Member Garcia. He brought legislators down and we gave them information that was specific to their deliberative process. And then we planned for community members to help them understand what's going on. What Audubon is doing is a bit different. They want the electeds to associate with the community members, which is their strategy, and it's a fine strategy. And I think that they all need to just be harmonized to make sure we don't leave anything out, that we are delivering on message, our goals and objectives, and people have a broader understanding.
And I completely agree. Just as you said, it absolutely needs to be ongoing, because I don't want to miss a legislator because he was busy that one day that we had the one tour, but also because things change. And so as we continue to see things change, we can have these quarterly tours and and if I don't get to come back, which, you never know, there will be a plan for that. And that's what I'm committing to, is that there will be a plan not just for the rest of this particular contract, but for any agency moving forward to be able to execute over time.
Thank you.
I think if I may just say one final comment, I do appreciate the outreach to the community, but I also want to recognize our membership department heads and folks that are here. I always like to give Miss Trina Hamby a shout out, who I consider a public health advocate from Imperial County, who's driving up here to get information. And I appreciate that, but I think we need to do a little bit better job reaching out to those departments and finding that mutual interest. I see Mr. Barrett here as well, participating in the audience. Obviously there's some interest there as well, but it feels like he's coming to our meetings to get the information when we could work on some two-way communication. So hopefully, don't want to put too many ornaments on your Christmas tree, but because I don't want it to fall over. But if there is opportunities to reach out to those agencies among the membership and make sure that they know that we're advocates for them too, and also canvas for mutual interest with them and get them to jump on board. So I'll leave that on your whiteboard, but hopefully we can reach out to the RIVCOs, to the Imperial Counties, to the water districts, to the tribes, letting them know that we're here, we have alignment, and we're ready to execute.
And I so appreciate that comment. In fact, I just recently met with Scott Burrett just to kind of update him on where we're at with the communications plan as you have made him available to me. Thank you so much, Mr. Barrett. In addition, I will be doing a tour of the IID Colorado River Junction, because I wanted to understand that a little bit better. I think that it's easy for me to understand in theory. It's a little bit different to see it in person. And so I've been working with Jamie on that.
So I would encourage also we reach out to Miss Trina Hamby. She can tell you how many fecal colonies we have in the new river that's a delta to the Salton Sea. But when we have 60,000 fecal colonies in the new river that pours into the Salton Sea, she's a technical wizard when it comes to that kind of information.
I can't wait for our lunch.
Jeremy Brooks has a comment.
Isn't coming or is?
He has a comment.
Oh, okay. All right. Hello, Mr. Brooks. How are you?
I am doing good. I was going to wait until my kind of moment to speak to this, but it sounds like there's a lot of efforts in terms of this public and community outreach and getting people actually into the field to see what's going on. And it's one of the first things I noticed when I first started the Salton Sea was that we needed to get people out to see these projects because there is a lot going on. So I'm actually working with the state right now. We're developing a proposal for monthly tours for the community to come out and see the SCH, to see Bombay Beach, to see Clubhouse and the work on the playa. And that's intended to be sort of a flexible type of tour set where it might be Bombay 1 month, it might be SCH the next month, just to keep it interesting and fresh for the community. The vision there is to also engage Audubon and have them partner with the state on those tours of those facilities, since they're leading one of the projects. So just know there's other work going on here too. I expect to obligate a couple $100,000 to this over 3 or 4 years to see these through on a monthly basis. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there and let everybody know what's developing on that front.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. If you go to Bombay Beach at the ski and look for my dollar, it's on the wall. It has my
Mine
name
too.
on
Mine's there. Mine's there too.
Lots of fun. And then I appreciate the monthly tours, but maybe not so much in July and August. I'm sure you gave that a thought, right?
It's a good idea.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeremy.
And I'd really love to connect with you if at all possible. Please make sure you and I are on the same page. Thank you.
Ms. Moore has a hand up too.
Yeah, and just to kind of dovetail off of what Tara was speaking about, and then I think what you just raised, Jeremy, is great. One of the things, in talking about engagement and talking about that Gantt chart and our funding needs in the future, right, starting in FY27, we really do need to be kind of, if we can in those tours be, what I would envision, you're talking about SCH, and then you can really talk about, or there could be someone there to talk about the core study. And like, if you like this, right, talking about some of what the early implementation projects Susie was talking about, because, that, I think one of the things that happens when we hear the word study, and it really is different than the prior studies that have been done. Some were done by reclamation, some by the state. The core study is really designed, right, to result in an implementable project of a sizable size, right, or multiple projects. And so I think having those tours and hopefully being able to wrap in the feasibility study when you're looking at work and say it's going to be, right, additional work like this, I think is one of the ways that we can use tours like this to actually build support for the funding requirements that we're going to have that are reflected in that Gantt chart, and might be another way of really making those tours about education, but then also capturing some of that momentum for the future work that we're going to be doing. Because I think what you're doing on the ground helps kind of conceptualize, the core study is not per se just about a study, right? It's about being able to do more of this work that you're doing right now. And those are really, I think, as we all kind of come together on this, like that really, from my perspective and what I can use back here, be super helpful. Anyway, so that's, I just wanted to add.
Lisa, I'm just going to pop in real quick. The word study kind of bothers me a little bit in the context of what the Corps is doing. This is a design and engineering process at a regional level, and then at a project level. So it's not a study in the sense of what the community has gotten used to in the context of study.
Yeah.
They're going to be executing projects.
Right. And I think, when you're doing those tours, you can that's a really easy way to explain that this is more about, right, expanding on the work that we're already doing. It's not a study in the way that most people think about it and have gotten kind of used to thinking about it in terms of the sea.
So to Jeremy's point, this is exactly why we're doing this work. We need to coordinate this activity in a way that it's harmonized from a messaging standpoint, from an educational standpoint, from an advocacy standpoint, from a utilization of resources standpoint. I think that there's a lot of work to do, and it's not going to be free. And if we can allocate the best dollars to the best efforts for whoever is doing that, and we're doing it on a consistent basis, we should be doing this all the time. And at the end of the day, my hope and my expectation is that working together with the state, working together with our member agencies and their resources, with our community groups and others, this is just something that people are saying, when is the next? And how do I get on? So this is an ongoing thing. Owens Lake is a good example. One of the things that they do at Owens Lake is they have a community center that tells the story of the Owens Valley and tells what the problems have been and where it's going. It just needs to be top of mind education where people understand where we've been, where we're at, and where we're going. And I think once people start feeling liberated from an informational standpoint, it's just going to make everybody's job a lot easier.
Thank you, Tara. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the comments online as well.
Can't wait to work more collaboratively moving forward. Thank you.
Moving on, Salton Sea Conservancy update.
This is really largely a placeholder. I know that there's work taking place at the state right now. They are scheduling meetings, having meetings with member agencies and others. They have some thoughts and directions. I had the opportunity to meet with Assistant Secretary Shea at some length yesterday, have conversations about this. There are really two facets to it. Some of it, and the issue. One of the things that we're focused on is the $10 million that was allocated in the bond funding. There's also the governor's budget was recently released, and I think this, Madam President, if you would allow, I think it would be helpful to allow Assistant Secretary Shea an opportunity to share on the governor's recently released budget with respect to the SSMP.
Go right ahead.
Thank you, President Dockstader. Yes, so last Friday, January 10th, the governor put out his January budget proposal. In it, you'll see that there is $147.6 million. That is the balance of climate bond funding that we are proposing towards our projects, our priority projects at the sea. So that makes up, again, our priority projects comprising North Lake Wetlands, Cane Spring, and the Bombay Wetlands Project. It also includes $5.5 million for our cost share, the Army Corps, and that's on top of $4.5 million that we've already secured towards our Army Corps cost share. Just want to clarify too that we resolved the payment issue that was brought up earlier. So we're really excited about the momentum that this proposal would continue. Obviously, it needs to be approved by the legislature. That's what I was doing right before this meeting, was in some legislative meetings. We're really passionate about making sure that we get approval for that allocation, this proposal this year, so that we can enter into contracts later this year and get that work started. And then if I could just briefly touch on the Conservancy, obviously, we're excited about the capacity that this Conservancy will bring to the work that we're all doing to complement it. And we are committed to putting out a proposal in this spring, looking forward to engaging with you all as we get closer to the development of that proposal. So that's my update, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions?
So continuing on that, I'm just briefly, Madam President, the big challenge, it's not really a challenge, it's pure analysis, is what to do with the $10 million, right? Which the bond specifically identifies for the Salton Sea Authority and the Conservancy. And what Assistant Secretary Shea and I, the conversation we had is it needs to go to the right place, right? And we just need to figure out what that means. The work that the authority is doing, we've long, this board, I know, as a former member of the board, has long discussed, and I see Supervisor Kelly on the call also, has long discussed the need, the burden that the member agencies bear for the cost associated with the work of the authority, which largely benefits the state and now our federal partners as it relates to Colorado River issues, and how some of that $10 million might help be made available to help the authority, help the state in some of the areas that we've talked about today. So that's a dialogue that's going to be continuing, and I'm hopeful that when we present our budget in 2 months in draft, we can at least have some concepts as to how that might be met.
President, I did have a question for Patrick and our Assistant Secretary regarding the proposal. Could you just fill me in on what that proposal is for? What is the intent of that proposal that you described?
Absolutely. So, at a high level, the proposal looks back on the climate bond that was passed by the voters on November 5th. That includes $10 billion for a host of climate initiatives. And once that funding is made available, I'm kind of stripping down a lot of the technical nuances that I don't quite understand about how bonds work. But the bottom line is that there's $10 billion towards activities that are stipulated in the bond. So that includes $160 million for the Salton Sea Management Program. What comes next after that funding is approved in the bond is we put forward a proposal on how we would like to spend those dollars. And so that's what is in this January proposal. I'm happy to follow up with you afterwards and just let you know where you can, read the language online. And then, again, our goal is to have that funding approved this year by the legislature. So again, we can enter into contracts to spend those funds on our priority projects.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think my initial thoughts were taking me somewhere else on what that proposal was for. I was just trying to make sure I had some clarity on that. I didn't know if that had to do with the creation of the conservancy or
the $10 million,
anything like that. So
the $10 million, the funds are available for that.
Right.
Right.
And so when can I talk?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So the climate bond included $160 million for Salton Sea Management Program activities. That after debt financing costs are removed, becomes the $147.6 million that you're seeing in our proposal. And then separately, there's a separate pot of $10 million for to go towards the creation of the Salton Sea Conservancy. The way that the language is written, it says $10 million is provided for either of the following: 1, creation of Salton Sea Conservancy; 2, Salton Sea Authority. That's what the language says. And what I'm saying on the latter pot, the $10 million, is that we are committed to putting a proposal forward in the spring. And the reason why we're doing that is because we want to have more time for public engagement, to talk with all of you, talk with other interested stakeholders as we move along with the development of this proposal.
thank you for that. That clarifies my
and
question.
I would point out that the $10 million is either of, and I certainly we because the original bond negotiations had monies in there for the authority and for the conservancy, and they were lumped together in aggregate. And certainly I think it's every member of this board's expectation that it's the best use of the money. But notwithstanding that, the authority is a partner in the state's efforts, and to the extent that funding can be provided, that should be a consideration also. I also wanted to point out that the North Lake Pilot Demonstration Project and the Desert Shores Project are both part of the SSMP. So how the state allocates that $160 million, I don't know whether or not they're intending to specifically designate any of those resources for either or both of those projects, but I just wanted to point that out also.
How much money was that again, Patrick?
It's actually 147.6 after the state takes their skim off the top.
I did write that down. Very interesting.
But they haven't skimmed the $10 million yet.
Yeah, it's debt financing costs, Mr. Finance Czar.
Yes, it is. All right. If there are no further questions, can we move on to project updates? You're on, Patrick. Project updates.
Okay, well, it rolls right into a discussion on what I just said, the North Lake Pilot Demonstration Project. Mm-hmm. We've been working with our engineers to develop a revised schedule and budget for that project, which I think is substantially complete, nearing completion, and we've got a meeting with the state next week to discuss that schedule and budget requirement and discuss sources and options and strategies for a successful completion of that project. The Desert Shores project, as this board is aware, we engaged Nicholas Engineering to do a geotechnical assessment of the Finger Lakes to determine how best to approach restoring, rehabilitating that project. They have begun their work. The project is comprised of hundreds of individual residential lots. So right now we're in the process of working with the homeowners, local stakeholders, in accessing the lots needed in order to perform the testing to make the geotechnical assessment that we need to move forward to design. And that is underway, and hopefully that will be completed within a few short months. I don't really have anything to report on Bombay Beach. I don't know if, I understand that is moving in the direction of the state. I don't know whether Jeremy or anybody else had anything that they wanted to add in that regard, but I'll just pause for a second.
Yeah, I can provide some info on Bombay Beach. It's
cool.
Probably Joe's sphere a little bit more than mine, but happy to do that. So Reclamation is funding Audubon's efforts to design the Bombay Beach project. We've allocated almost $2 million to that project, and the state and Bombay and Audubon are working kind of in partnership to advance that design. Originally, the vision was for Audubon to actually contract and build the project, but as the design is advanced and we've kind of better understood where the project is heading, decision was made probably about 8 months ago to have the state take the lead and have Audubon pass off the project to the state to actually do the construction and finalization of the project, and then take over operation in perpetuity. So that's sort of where we stand on that. It's still in design. I know the state is working really aggressively with Audubon to push those plans forward. I don't want to misquote, but I believe late this year there's a hope to start, contracting that and getting that bid and hopefully started. So that's my latest understanding of where we stand at Bombay.
Thank you, Jeremy. You have anything to add, Joe?
No, I think Jeremy covered it. We're really excited about this project. Jeremy and Audubon have been fantastic partners, and we are super committed to moving this as quickly as we can.
Thank you very much.
Just two final notes on that. There is $5 million that the state is securing from the state, one of the water boards, I'm sorry. And then also there is $2 million that Congressman Ruiz has put into the FY25 budget to help fund that project. The budget's still in continuing resolution, so we'll have to see how that plays out as it's negotiated out.
Thank you for that update. I appreciate it.
Michael Cohen has his hand raised.
Mr. Cohen, you're up.
Thanks very much. Just a quick follow-up question for the general manager on the North Lake pilot demonstration project. I'm curious if there's been any progress on identifying a water supply for that project. There were some concerns raised previously about essentially taking water from Peter to pay Paul by drying up some of the emerging wetlands that dot the north shore of the Salton Sea to take that water to fill the North Lake pilot demonstration project. So I don't know if there's been progress on finding alternative sources. There was some discussion of groundwater, or even potentially taking some water supply from some other source, possibly even the Coachella Canal, to support this much needed project. Thanks.
Thank you. This is why we're friends. Let's hear it, Patrick. Good question.
So that is an issue for the pilot demonstration project, and it's an issue for projects more broadly around the sea, is what do you do with all those emerging wetlands? But as it relates to the North Lake pilot demonstration project, our intention is to work around that and make sure that the impacts of those accidental wetlands are mitigated. And I think that based on the information we have available, we have enough resources to address that. I know the state is working on a broader, greater North Lake project, and that will have to be taken into consideration also. But principally, the source will be the drain water. We are looking at we've changed the project footprint. We are looking at groundwater as a secondary source of supply that might help with water quality and also address water supply needs in the drier months. But that will be all part of the final work product of DUDEC and part of their cost estimate and schedule. But thanks for the question.
And you kind of made it sound like, Patrick, earlier, like you were really getting far along. Do you anticipate maybe in March coming back with more information for the North Lake, or is it going to take a little longer?
I think that we want to get together with the state and we want to have a discussion about resources.
Okay.
So my thinking would be our meeting in May will be back in the Coachella Valley. I think it would be more appropriate to target a May, more formal discussion and presentation on that. But if it's sufficiently mature to discuss in March, we'll bring it before the board.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else have any questions? All right. Excellent. Let's move on to federal reports. Federal activities. Lisa, you're up.
Great. Good afternoon, maybe your time. Just a couple of additions for what we've already talked about. When we come into a new Congress, we have members moving seats, or in this case, Senator Schiff coming in and into his seat. We have Senator Padilla and Senator Schiff have both joined the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works. That's great and relevant to us because EPW handles, among other things, the Corps of Engineers and Water Resources Development Act. So, as we work through the feasibility study, if we need WRDA legislation, which is what we originally got the Corps feasibility study authorized in during the Trump administration, actually, I might add, it might be that we need legislation or modifications or additional authorities for the Corps. And so having both of our senators on that committee is certainly helpful. Senator Padilla has remained on the Energy Committee. That's relevant to folks both for kind of the lithium issues that are important to the region, but also Colorado River issues and reclamation issues go through that committee, and so that is helpful. Senator Schiff has also joined the Senate Agriculture Committee. That's the first time we've actually had a senator on Senate Ag since Pete Wilson in 1980. That is relevant in part because we are actually in the process of, we'll be writing a farm bill, a 5-year farm bill, which is about a $1.5 trillion piece of legislation, real money in it. And so that's actually a nice position to have some representation on after not having it for quite some time. On the House side, Congressman Ruiz is on Energy and Commerce, which is where he has been. Congressman Calvert in the majority is still on appropriations and a senior appropriator. They're working on making their subcommittee assignments still, but energy and water may be where he lands, which would be good. That again is reclamation in the Corps of Engineers from an appropriations perspective. When we originally got when the authority worked on the advocacy to get the Corps study authorized in WRDA 2020, one of the things that we needed to do was immediately get appropriations to allow the Corps to continue to begin working, but also just in the process of getting that legislation adopted, we need to and organized support letters from the community, from local governments. Just it takes a lot of kind of advocacy like that, some of the things that Tara is talking about to really back up the efforts that I engage in here with our delegation. I do think it's the work of a lot of people, but definitely our board and the authority in actually raising the visibility of the Salton Sea on the federal level. I think we've kind of achieved that. And now, as we look forward and we look at that Gantt chart and the needs that we'll have in FY27, it's really, I think, using these tours, I think, editorial work with the local press and editorial boards, members all spend a lot of time reading the newspaper. All of those things can help us build a foundation for, both keeping the core study, the federal funding on track, which will probably look like both an appropriation strategy for FY27 if we still have earmarks under a Republican Congress. And then also there's just a lot of advocacy at the administration level to get funding in something like a work plan, what we were able to accomplish with the $3.8 million we have right now to keep the study on track. And so I think, I look at the next, this upcoming period of time and really kind of redoubling our efforts to work with the local community and different groups to really mobilize them in helping provide the support for those additional resources. There's a whole host of things that I have to submit when we make appropriations requests, letters of support and resolutions and things like that. And so I'll be working with Patrick and Tara in sort of making sure that everyone understands kind of as we're doing those outreach efforts, we also get some deliverables out of that or are pulling, right, when we have people on a tour, hey, like maybe we have a sample letter that they can use to send to their members and also send to us, so we can kind of keep track of and have all of that as we need to, submit that with appropriations requests or in backing up the administration and having that additional funding in the work plan. Happy to take any questions.
I have a question, Lisa.
Sure, go ahead.
Lisa, thank you for your update. I was particularly impressed by your written summary that we got. It was really thorough. I appreciate that. In the memo, you talked about the budget reconciliation process in some detail, and I wasn't sure if this budget reconciliation process is atypical, because you mentioned in the memo that the outcome of that could impact both the core and the reclamation budget. So, I mean, is that a workaround to the typical process? Is that a good thing for us? I'm just curious about it, if you could elaborate on your comments.
It is it's a process that Congress uses in particular because the Senate, in the Senate, we still have a legislative filibuster. So it takes 60 votes to pass legislation in the Senate. And so when you've had Democratic majorities in the Senate, but not 60 votes, or Republican majorities, that typically the first thing that an administration will do with a new majority is start a budget reconciliation process to pass legislation that might not otherwise garner 60 votes. And so Obamacare passed that way. IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, passed that way under the Biden administration. And so this is the expectation, either one or two reconciliation bills. When that happens, in order to, a reconciliation bill has to involve a budgetary impact. And so instructions will be given to the committees. We're not yet sure what those will look like. So it can affect that. My understanding, and I think Jeremy's still on here, is that, usually at the end of an administration, what an administration will do is try to protect funding that has been in their budget by obligating it to different things so that it can't kind of be clawed back in a reconciliation process. So I would expect that it's definitely been going on in other projects that I've been working on. I think for agriculture, since we have two ag districts that are part of the authority, it's not really anticipated that ag will be dramatically affected by that. They're going to try to sort of stay out of reconciliation because they're working on a farm bill. And there were a lot of increases in the IRA and USDA's budget, and there is some work being done to kind of protect that moving forward. But I don't think we know yet. Jeremy might have a better kind of sense of it for how reclamation's kind of been doing its work to protect. Usually it's you obligate the money. You obligate monies that if you've kind of paid attention right in the last couple of months, there's been a lot of money moving out the door. And so that's in part to kind of accomplish the remaining Democratic priorities of the administration, but also to protect that funding from being clawed back in a reconciliation process. I don't know if that answered your.
Yeah, no, it does, definitely.
Sure.
I appreciate the explanation. It helps a lot. Thank you.
But that's the purpose of it, is to get around the filibuster on legislation.
That kind of was my
So, right,
Was it
if you
working?
can't pass, it would be difficult to pass a tax cut or reinstitute the Trump tax cuts in the Senate with 54 votes or what, right? So you can't, they'll use reconciliation to do that. That's how those tax cuts passed in the first Trump administration.
Thank you, Lisa.
Treasurer Kelly has a comment.
Yep. Go ahead, Mr. Kelly. We're ready for you.
Thanks. Sorry I got on late, but good conversation. This isn't for you, Lisa. Actually, I've got to jump to another meeting, but this is basically for everybody. Patrick, could you consolidate and find out the local hiring impact from any of the projects that are on the ground? And can we continually get maybe some reporting on local hires based off of SCH or the Bombay Beach wetlands, the Thule Wash or Clubhouse, North Lake, just to see what that impact is? We ask other public projects to do that reporting, and I've been asked about this. I'd like to know what that impact is.
That is a great question, and I would love to look into it for you.
Thank you.
Great idea. Thank you, Ryan. Any other comments? All right. Jeremy, you're up. You have anything else to add?
I do. I'd first like to welcome Director Cardenas' younger sister, Supervisor. So congratulations, and I really look forward to working with you in the future. So the big kind of update is really that the commitments agreement from December 2022 is materially complete. We've obligated $249 million, the 250. I just obligated $5 million to the SCH this morning, that expansion project that the state's implementing, and then $2 million to IID should be implemented or should be executed and obligated tomorrow. That may speak to Lisa's kind of comments about agencies moving forward to kind of obligate funding that ties to commitments that have been made or projects that have been submitted. So we are doing that at Reclamation. Good news there. Most of the other components of that agreement have also been, like the land use agreements, and those things have all been kind of moved forward and pushed forward and completed. So the budget conversation kind of leads to my next point is at my next quarterly update, I should have some more material information about new projects and initiatives. But right now I'm a little bit in a holding pattern until we see a budget from Congress. I don't like to commit too much until we know what the final number is going to be. So there are new planning initiatives out there, like the tours and other things that are happening. So I'll provide an update next quarter on that. That's all I got.
Thank you. We appreciate all your participation today. State, is there any other? All right, state advocacy. We got to get rolling. It's already 11:49.
So we have no report on state advocacy. The only thing I'd point out is we've begun a process to assess our needs and our best strategy in addressing our state advocacy, and hopefully I'll have more to report on that at our next meeting.
Okay. Mr. Hernandez, State of California.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Hi, everybody. My name is Miguel Hernandez. I'm the Public Affairs Officer for Salton Management Program. I have a brief update on our program. First, I'd like to start with a quick update on the SCH project. We are, as you probably have heard, we are working on an expansion of this project. An additional 750 acres are being added to the past footprint, which was 4,100 acres. So now we're looking pretty close to 5,000 acres. We're moving full steam on that new expansion. The construction of a new berm is the main focus of this new expansion. Pretty much connecting, for those that have the opportunity to be there and see the project, connecting the one of the north berms that we had previously constructed, right, we're pretty close to the New River, connecting it to the end of the causeway. It is about a 2 mile berm, new berm that's being constructed. In fact, it's pretty close to being connected to the end of the causeway pretty close to the pump station. So that's what the new expansion area will look like. So want to report that we're moving again full steam. Work is still continuing, but again, we're pretty close to getting there for this new footprint. And also part of the conversation, or a good part of this meeting was dedicated to community outreach and engagement. As you all know, that's my one of my strong fronts. So glad to hear that. It being today's meeting being the first of the year, this is up front in our conversation. It has been our priority for the last few years that we connect and enhance our presence with the community for the Salton Management Program. We've had many opportunities. In fact, if I could report that during 2024, we had a bit more than 50 opportunities for engagement, meaning that we either provided a program update, provided a presentation. We also have those, we've been visiting city council meetings throughout the region. And of course, all the tours that we were able to host, either with legislators, with community members, with youth groups, also with media that were really interested in learning more about our project. So we had, again, more than 50 opportunities in 2024. So we're looking at, doing, if not the same, more in 2025. And it is looking that we're going to do more than that this year, especially if we're able to collaborate with folks, Ryan from Audubon presented earlier on this upcoming tour. We will be there throughout the tour, but also we'll be hosting one of the sites. We'll be visiting the SCH site to have folks learn a little bit more about this project. So there's a lot happening. There's a lot of planning already happening for this upcoming opportunities. We want to make sure that we hit, different levels of our audiences as we progress on our outreach. So speaking about audiences, we just released, and I think I've teased this document in the past about the community outreach and engagement plan that we've been developing for some years and that we ramped up last year in coordination with the engagement committee. So we were able to finalize that plan last December. This plan identifies strategies, identifies all the current venues that we have or outlets that we have for information, if it's public meetings, if it's our newsletter, our website, all these different platforms that we have now available for the public to view and learn more about our program and projects. That's been identified on that community outreach and engagement plan. And I think it could serve as a good baseline on how to connect with communities. This, again, has been informed by the Community Engagement Committee. It has a list of the different tactics and different strategies that seem to work better for our communities. Although I gotta say that each community is different, and you pretty much learn as you go on how to best connect and how to sort of adapt your outreach plan as you move or navigate through the region. But it is a pretty comprehensive document that was put together in a joint effort, and still, it's going to be sort of an evergreen project plan. It's not set in stone. Things change, and we need to adapt to what's happening. So, but it is a good baseline, especially since it was informed by experts in the region. So we hope to put that to use throughout 2025 and the upcoming years. We will continue to meet with the engagement community to make those updates. Of course, we always welcome new feedback. In fact, we seek that feedback after we have our meetings. We do have some exercises toward the tail end of our public meetings to help us learn more if we're actually being effective or not, or if we need to shift things a little bit. That also is being recognized on this outreach plan, metrics and measurable outcomes about the effectiveness of our outreach. So we want to make sure that we have some kind of data. If it's qualitative data, just what are people thinking about the projects? Even what are they thinking about our meeting? So we want to make sure that we keep some kind of track of the program being effective on our outreach. So again, that's a tool that's out there. It's on our website, both English and Spanish. saltonc.ca.gov. You can find it there. And happy to have a chat if anybody's interested in learning more about this plan. We have some coordination calls coming up with multiple partners. As has been said, everybody wants to do something about the sea or engage folks at the sea, but the more the better coordinated we are, I think the more effective we could be. So I'm all out for that. SSMP is all about coordination and collaboration. So we want to make sure that we have a strong front on our outreach and engagement. Well, to do that and have our multiple opportunities for engagement, another item on my report is that we continue to grow our team. So since we're doing a lot more, and we will continue to do more into the future, we continue to grow our team. We recently added a couple new members into our team with the Department of Water Resources. A couple of positions have been filled to help us with regulatory permitting, help us with adaptive management. So they are also on the day-to-day. Actually, one of those positions is a member of the region. So that's always great to hear, to have more local folks join our Salton Management Program team. So with that, I'll stop with my report and happy to answer questions if any.
Thank you, Miguel. Appreciate it. That is great that you guys have had 50 engagements. That's fabulous. Anybody else? Any comments? All right. Thank you, Miguel. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Salton Sea State Recreation Area. Hi, Taylor.
How you doing today?
Good, thank you.
Taylor Unziger, District Interpretive Coordinator, California State Parks. I have a quick little slide deck to share here about our yearly report here. So here's some data from the past, going back to 2019. Just shows our day use and overnight usage at the state recreation area. You can see some trends here. So you had high visitation in 2019. 2020 was when we had some COVID shutdown. There was a slight uptick in day use the following year. And then since then, it declined and then has been steadily increasing again. Just for some context, 2024, our past year here, if you compare that to that 2019 year, we're down 43% on visitation for day use and down 41% for overnight. If we compare these numbers to last year, we are up a little bit on day use and down 10% on camping overnight usage. In addition, this is just a summary of 2024 visitation. So this chart is helpful to depict like the trends of visitation during the year. So you can see obviously July, August, September, and June, lower visitation. It starts creeping up in November. It peaks around February, March. So just some trends there. As far as the interpretation and education department goes, these are the contacts that we have with the public, including visitor center, school visits, tour groups, events, etc. So you can see here 2024 from 2022, we've had a steady increase. So while we've had a decline in some of those recreational visits over the years, we have been getting an increase in people looking for questions to be answered about the sea and some more engaging conversations rather than just having people coming out to camp. So that was a 24% increase from 2023 as far as the interpretation goes for our recreation area. And then here's just a quick list of some of the groups that we worked with this year. And then lastly, we have our Salton Sea Bird Festival occurring on Saturday. We have quite a few registrations so far. So we're expecting, upwards of 200 people to be at the state recreation area. That's in collaboration with the Sunny Bono National Wildlife Refuge. So there's activities down there. And then we also have a north-south birding tour that will connect both of our units through the course of the day. So that's it for me. I will stop sharing. Hopefully that gave us a little picture of things for you.
Thank you. I always appreciate it. I like to see the trends and who's visiting, who isn't. Any other comments, questions? Thank you, Taylor. We appreciate it.
For sure.
Moving on to local, Salton Sea Action Committee, Alan Pace. Oh, no. Yeah, that is not Alan Pace.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Big Newton Day.
Darker shade of brown of Ellen Pace and a little shorter. On behalf of SAC, I want to wish you all a Happy New Year. May our Lord Jesus Christ continue to bless us with joy and good health. And on behalf of SAC, congratulations, Supervisor, on your election. Not a report, but just some comments that we are thrilled to be working again with Audubon on the January 31st tour. We took the lead back last year in May for that tour, but we didn't do it alone. Audubon provided a lot of heavy lifting. But on this one, I'm glad that they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting, and we're on the opposite end providing some support. So we'll be happy to work with them on this and hopefully make it as successful as possible. And we are thrilled also with the contract with CV Strategies. We will be offering our money and our blood to their efforts on all their goals and objectives with the plan that they've put forth. And we agree with a lot of the things that were said today. So we're hoping that collaborating with CV Strategies, we can help them provide some very, very well done deliverables and programs that can benefit all of us in our efforts to the restoration of the Salton Sea. So thank you for the opportunity and have a blessed day.
You too. Thank you for always being present. Executive Director report.
Madam President, the only thing I really wanted to mention with respect to tours, and I would jump ahead to the items for the next meeting. Tom Sefton has a process for desalinating water that was mentioned at an earlier authority board meeting, and Supervisor Perez had asked for a presentation on that. We have that scheduled for our next board meeting in the Imperial Valley. And what I talked with Tom about is arranging a tour of his facilities in the Imperial Valley. So I'm going to send out an email to see if there's an interest amongst board members to tour his facility. We do need a little bit of advance notice because of his partners require certain access preparedness before we get on the site. But that we are going to conduct that in February, and so you'll see an email from me shortly. I think we probably will open it up to the public, although it's going to be relatively short notice. And I think it's an important part of the conversation, water reuse with respect to what the future of the sea will look like. That's the only thing I had to bring to the board, but I'm happy to answer any additional questions. We covered a lot of ground today.
No, I think we've done quite a bit. Oh, and then I also see on here for our next meeting, will it just be a draft then of the budget coming forward also at the next meeting?
That's correct.
Draft budget. Okay.
Correct.
All right. If everybody is finished and no other comments, we're ready to go. I adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.
12:04.
Good. Yeah, we're gonna do it.